Welcome back. I am so glad that you joined me today. At the time of this recording, it is the middle of August, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting on how time just flies by. I think I might have mentioned this in an episode or two back, but maybe it's just that I'm getting old. I don't know, but it feels like just yesterday it was like Christmas time, then it was, around spring break and we were anticipating warm weather, and then summer started, and all of a sudden here we are at the end of the summer, and I think it's really hitting me for a couple of reasons. One is all over social media I'm seeing those back to school pictures, the ones, everybody prances their kids out in front of the house on the first day of school, and their new school clothes outfits with their new backpacks, and they take the photos. And I'm really impressed by the moms who put up the chalkboard, you know what I'm talking about, chalkboard, what do you call those signs, those kind of they stand up like an easel, and it says first day of kindergarten, first day of first grade, fifth grade, whatever. And every year they take those photos, and the board will say what my favorite this and that is and how much I've grown, whatever, right? Look, I was not that kind of mom. I don't know about you guys, but I did not have my shit together enough to, one, I don't even think I took pictures on every first day of school for my kids. I'm a horrible mom, right? You can shame on me in the privacy of your house, your car, on your walk, whatever you're listening to me and while you're doing. But I certainly didn't have it together to do that. So kudos to those moms, right? But we're seeing those posts all over social media, and a couple of things really hit me about it. Well, first, let me tell you the other thing that made me really think about this, in addition to the photos that I'm seeing. Last night, when, we have this kind of ritual, if you want to call it that. Roger comes in from work. I have kind of shut down from work for the day, and we spend some time out at the pool together. It's something that we enjoy doing. And I'm not kidding, for weeks now, it's been over 100 degrees at 6, 7 o'clock. Sometimes it'll drop into the 90s, but last night was the first night at around 7:30 or so. I felt this, it got a little airish. Anybody from the country heard that phrase? The temperature in the air, the heat in the air was not there like it has been. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, there it is. There's the beginning of the changing of the seasons. Now, it was over 100 today here, so I'm not saying we're dropping into sweater weather, but that first time I feel a difference in the air in that way, I get a little sad. I'll be honest. I think summer is ending, and it's, yet another year is coming really quickly to an end, and before we know it, it will be, Halloween, November, Christmas time. So those are the two things that have me thinking about this. And here's really the purpose of why I wanted to record this episode today. I want to kind of talk about this idea of the ultimate balancing act, right? That pressure that we as women feel to juggle the thriving career, all the things family related, and our health. And what usually gets dropped in that mix is our health, right? There's so much pressure, particularly at this time of year when, the kids are going back to school. I was in higher ed for a number of years toward the end of my educational career. And it was the kids going back to college and the start of return week and all things that were just this huge push at this time of the season. Excuse me, that put a lot of pressure on, I think, especially put a lot of pressure on women. And so there's this, what I'll call the ultimate balancing act, which I think is a complete joke. It's a setup for failure. So I wanted to share a little bit of a personal story, because I am right now talking to so many of you who are going through this like pressure cooker of a time in your life. And you don't have to be a teacher going back to the classroom to feel it. Moms who have had, kids home for summer and they have a career outside of education. Moms whose, kids are both like public school age kids, or they're adult college age children are home. Like, there's a shift in the routine, and it's an emotional shift. It's a physical and a busy, like in a real way, busy shift. Like, life changes during this time. And so I'm talking to so many of you who are going through that. And what I'm hearing so often is that, well, I have to get, Johnny ready for his, first semester at college, or, Susie's going back to her second year at XYZ campus. And so I'm right in the middle of getting all the things and helping them pack and get ready, or traveling to take them back to school or whatever. Or it's the, the younger kids who are still in high school, and, we're ramping up here in Texas, like 2-a-day football season has started, and, going to get the schedules and getting all the school supplies. And so there's a lot of pressure for so many of you during this time, that what I'm hearing over and over is, I don't have time for me right now. I'm not able to do the exercises that I have been doing, or, like the whole eating routine has just gotten thrown out the window in the last couple of weeks. And I just can't see how I'm going to be able to focus on myself again until maybe into September. So once again, as women, as moms, as wives, as career women, we put ourselves lower and lower and lower on the list. And we say, next week, next month, after this, after that, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story from my past around that experience and that kind of pressure cooker time. And maybe this will resonate with you, because I have been exactly where you are. I remember so vividly, like, trying to keep all the plates spinning, right? But here's the thing. Seriously, taking care of yourself does not mean neglecting your family and your job and really anything else. It means that you just are better equipped to care for them when you take care of yourself. And here's the story. I remember when, oh my gosh, so many stories I could pull. I had one in mind, and now like 4 or 5 are running through my head. I remember one year, my kids were young, and I had actually lost quite a bit of weight that year. I had gone on the traditional, like, cut my calories super low, wasn't really doing anything fitness wise. It wasn't about health for me at that time. It really was about just losing weight. And so I had cut my calories super low. I had done that for long enough that I had dropped a pretty significant amount of weight. And I was proud of that, right? Again, I didn't have any muscle mass on me. I was like, I wouldn't even call myself skinny fat, because I wasn't skinny really at that point in my life, but I had worked pretty hard through a routine to cut my calories, starve myself, if you will, and I'd lost weight. And I remember we got toward the end of summer, or right around this time, and I just completely felt out of control. I felt like I had school clothes to buy. I had All the school supplies, oh my gosh, those lists have gotten longer. I was going back into the classroom. I was teaching public school at the time, so I had to go back into the classroom, and I had to go back weeks before my kids, right? And so I was getting my classroom set up and ready. And by the way, they didn't have air conditioning on in the building, so I was going to work, sweating my ass off, getting my classroom set up, my classroom library, because I prided myself on being the best teacher that I could be. I thought of myself as like, almost like a second mom to all of the kids that I taught. I absolutely adored teaching. And so I felt I threw myself into that. I went back to my classroom before the school even said I had to go back. So I had been doing that every day. I was feeling guilty because I was leaving my kids already. Summer wasn't even over, and I was leaving them for their last days that they were off. And then we had this big rush, of school was starting for them, and we had this big push to get everything done. And I remember thinking, you're a failure. Like, you cannot even stay organized to get your kids ready for school. And how dare you take time to think about yourself? In this particular year, I also needed to buy some work clothes for myself because I had lost weight, and I needed, some slacks and some blouses. So I wasn't going to work in clothes that were swimming on me. And I remember thinking, you can't go clothes shopping. How dare you take time to do that when your kids need school clothes, and you've got to figure out how you're going to do that. Now, let me add in too, at that time, I really put a lot of pressure on myself to do other things, like to be the good mom, in the sense of I had a goal of, for example, having Christmas shopping completely finished by, September, mid-October at the latest. Like, that was, one of these like good mom things that I thought good moms did. And so I wanted to be able to check that off the list too, right? And so, you add that kind of thing in, which I look back now and it seems so ridiculous, but you add that pressure that I was putting on myself in too, and I felt like a complete failure, and I felt extremely selfish. And so through those feelings and telling myself those stories of how I was such a bad mom, if I even thought about spending any time to get myself ready, I stopped doing anything healthy for me. It became just this like whirlwind of shopping for the kids, getting the school supplies, getting getting the new lunchbox and the new backpack, and setting up routines and figuring out the transportation. How was I going to be, get to school and have, because at the time the kids were in different schools, and yada, da, 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 da. And when I think about it now, it almost even creates a little bit of anxiety in me. And I share that with you because I hear so many of you tell me very similar kinds of stories about what you're going through now. And in particular, the teachers, those of you who are teachers, whether you're in public school, whether you're teaching in higher education, but if you're in the educational system, and I'm talking to you right now, my heart really goes out to those women even a little more, just because I can relate so much to what they're going through. And this is a little bit of a side note, but I'm going to say this too. Number one, I think it is freaking ridiculous that school systems have kids going back, particularly in the South, where we are in Texas. We've had multiple days in a row of triple digits, and kids are going back earlier and earlier and earlier. Kids here, some schools started school 2 weeks ago, like in July, right? And I know up in the north, most of you all start after Labor Day, which I think is a great policy to have, but we don't do that here in Texas. And so kids are going to school. It's super hot. It's July, which is to me still summer, and teachers are now facing such a drastically different teaching environment. And I've had a lot of friends who were in education who have left education. And I don't want to debate whether that's right or wrong, or school systems in general. I don't want to debate all that. But the point that I'm making here is teachers who are going back into the classroom these days are faced with challenges that I didn't even have to face. So when I talk to you, I hear the angst and the added pressure in your voices. Things like you not having adequate funding for your classrooms, and you're basically, I spent a lot of money out of pocket too, but it's gotten so much worse where, there are influencers on social media who are, asking teachers for their wish lists and funding those wish lists and doing all these kinds of things that just add to the stress, right? And again, that's not to take away from any other women who are dealing with the struggles and the stresses of this time of year. It's just to kind of make a note that I do have this soft spot in my heart for people in education. So I understand how easy it is for you to lose sight of yourself in the midst of everything that's going on. But I want you to consider how you can carve out space for truly what matters most. And that is your own well-being. And it may be cliche to say that if you don't fill your own cup, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour into others if you haven't poured into yourself. I know that some of you hear those kinds of things and you're like, yeah, but that doesn't get shit done in my house. That's a cute saying, but it doesn't get stuff done. But I really do want you to consider how the added pressure that you're putting on yourselves to be these perfect moms, these perfect women, these perfect career-driven females, how that is chipping away at you day by day, week by week, month by month. It truly is. And so having said all of that, I want to give you just, get to the nitty gritty, and I want to give you just a few kind of tips and strategies that maybe you can use, you can employ at this time of year when things just feel completely chaotic and so far out of balance, you don't even know where to start, right? So one tip I want to give you is do some super, super simple kind of brainstorming and idea dumping onto a sheet of paper. And that can be really simple and in a way that you can focus it on what creates some of the most angst for you. For example, and this will be different for different people. For example, a lot of you tell me, and I can relate to it because for me too, dinners, what are we going to have for dinner was one of the biggest stressors and created the most anxiety for me. I absolutely hated the idea that I had to come up with what were we going to eat every day after a long day at work, Roger coming in from work and the kids coming home from school. And so if that is you, this sort of brain dump kind of thing that I'm talking about using this strategy could look like on Friday after work or maybe Saturday morning, spend just a couple of minutes jotting down only 3 meals that you guys will have for the following week, because most of us go to the grocery store on the weekends, right? So if you jot down what are 3 meals that are kind of down and dirty, quick, everybody enjoys, nobody's going to complain about meals that you can plan for the next week. Things that are really simple to throw together. In our house, that would be, tacos. It would be spaghetti. It would be, leftovers from one of those nights. So whatever it is, 3 quick down and dirty meals. And I'll tell you what, I don't have this as a note, but I'm going to interject here and say, if you need some super fast, healthy meals that your family will enjoy, and you would like to be able to, make this list, but you need some ideas, in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to some of the favorite recipes that my clients over the years have told me, the recipe packs that I give them. These are the ones they pick and say, these are absolutely their favorite and their families love them. They're super quick kinds of things, right? Like super quick enchiladas, that kind of stuff. So look in the show notes if you want to grab that resource. I'll leave that there for you. But so again, just plan 3 meals. The 4th night of the week, I want you to plan for that to be a leftover night. And the 5th night of the week, my suggestion is for that to be a night that you grab something out somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be drive-through and completely like junk, fat, nasty, gross food. You could make a choice somewhere that it's not as unhealthy, right? But somewhere, for us, it was Friday nights. Friday nights, what we did was we had pizza night on Friday nights. And from what I hear from a lot of my clients, that's a pretty common tradition. There are ways that you can have pizza, let the family eat it, and you can still have yourself a really healthy meal, or fairly healthy meal, right? So for example, I'm going to give you an idea for pizza night too. On Friday night, pizza night, order Pizza Hut or whatever. I hope I don't get in trouble for throwing out brand names or stores here, but order Pizza Hut if that's your thing. And if you want to be extra healthy about how you're eating, scrape the toppings off and put it on a huge salad. Have a big ass salad with the pizza toppings, and you're going to get that enjoyment of the flavor of the pizza, but you're not going to eat near as much fat and the near as many carbs late on Friday night in the breads. Trust me when I tell you, it is kind of one of those middle ground ways to enjoy family pizza night, but not feel so guilty. All right. Another thing that you can do is have one piece of pizza and make yourself a big ass salad to go with it. I love pizza. When we have pizza night, I'm having it. So give yourself a break, right? Have one slice of pizza, but make yourself a big salad to go with it. If that's pizza and movie night, you still get to eat pizza and enjoy it with the kids and the husband and have a salad, and that's going to give you all the nutrition, and it's going to help you to feel satisfied too. So that's my first big tip for you, is figure out something that creates the most chaos for you. Sit down and brain dump and do a little bit of planning. And if that's food, that's great. If it's lunches for the kids for the next week or for the family for the next week, depending on what your situation is, do that with lunches. And then with that list, you can, over the weekend, make sure you have what you need on hand to follow that plan. I'll tell you something else that I have done, which I would highly recommend along with that plan, is there's a super inexpensive magnetic calendar that goes on the refrigerator. It's one of those, translucent, clear, has the days of the week, has markers that are wipe-off markers, sticks to the front of the refrigerator, does not damage the surface of your refrigerator. And that's where you can go and stand and make your list and just jot down. You don't have to plan out every single thing that's you're going to eat in those nights, but go to that refrigerator calendar and plan out what you're going to have: hamburgers, taco night, spaghetti night, pizza night, whatever it is. Write it right there. And I'll, in fact, even drop the link to the calendar that I have on Amazon. I have no affiliation with it. There's no commission I'm going to get, but I'll drop the link for you. It's like less than $20, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing that I would really encourage you to do is to carve out 10 minutes every morning for yourself through this time of transition and getting back into the swing of fall. Now, great if you want to exercise during that 10 minutes. Bonus points if you want to go out and take a walk, or you want to do an exercise, some kind of an exercise. I encourage you to make sure it's a metabolically focused exercise and one that's customized for your fitness goals and where you are and all those things. But I'll set that soapbox aside and just say, spend 10 minutes in the morning. Again, bonus points if it's exercising. But if nothing else, I don't care if you just pour yourself a cup of coffee and go outside and soak up some daylight, some natural daylight. In fact, depending on how stressed you are, that can be a better way for you to spend 10 minutes than exercising. And here I am, the fitness crazy guru, telling you that, but I'm serious. Hormonally, it can be better for you if you are extremely stressed. It can be better for you to go outside, sit down, take some deep breaths, and get 10 minutes of natural light on your face. That can be better for your health than exercising, depending on your situation. And if you want to talk to me more about that, definitely reach out, talk to me. The third thing that I would encourage you to do is I would highly encourage you to have some sort of plan now, some sort of evening, bedtime, whatever you want to call it, wind down routine for your family. There needs to be, it doesn't have to be structured to the minute, but there needs to be something that you put in place that is the routine that everybody gets accustomed to and they expect in the evening. If that's, having dinner together and then everybody going and doing their thing, kids doing homework, you taking a little bit of time for yourself, you and the husband going outside, sitting on the patio, whatever it is, and then when everybody winds down, but have a plan for how your evening is going to go and make that as consistent as possible. I know many of you will say, we've just got so many after school activities going on that's totally impossible. And that may be the case, but you're going to come home at some point, right? And you're going to get in the bed at some point, right? So there's always, even if it's just 15 minutes at the very end of everything that you all do as a family and you do as an individual, do the same routine before you go to bed, even if, like I said, it's that 15 minutes. That kind of getting consistency in your schedule can help to calm your mind, and it really, it sets you up almost subconsciously for, I know what to expect before I go to bed, and my body will start to get into a rhythm. I promise you, if you do those three things, just those three things, get those habits in place, use those strategies, your weeks as you transition into this next phase of fall will feel so much calmer, and you will actually carve out time for yourself just in the nature of using those strategies. So before I end, I just want you to remember that nothing that you're doing with regard to your health, your weight loss, nothing in this life is about an expectation of perfection. It just isn't. What you're after is each day trying to do the best you can to make just a wee bit of progress. And when you do that, small things add up to become little wins that you can bank. And even no matter how small they are, when you bank those wins, they add up to a great deal of change. And I'll end with this. The time is going to pass anyway. It's going to pass anyway, right? We're going to blink and look up and it's going to be Christmas. The time is going to pass anyway. Why not do one small thing, or maybe, hey, the 3 strategies that I've given you, why not implement some little baby step toward that progress now? And when you look up and it's Christmas, you'll be amazed at how much progress you've actually made, both physically and mentally. You'll be much more at peace. You'll feel much calmer, and your health will have improved, if nothing else, from that. All right, I'm out of here, you guys. Thanks so much for spending time with me this afternoon. I really do appreciate these chats. I wonder sometimes if doing this podcast is more for me than it is for you. I love hearing from you how helpful this is, though. So please do let me know. Take just a couple of minutes, write a review, rate the show, and hey, send me a message. I love to hear from you guys. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you right back here next week.